already has enough resources. Dave?
Rachel, President Biden's arrived in Switzerland after leaving Brussels following talks with European leaders. Tomorrow, the president has his big meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
If he chooses not to cooperate and acts in a way that he has in the past relative to cybersecurity and some other activities, then we will respond.
President Putin, meanwhile, has been brushing off all the accusations of hacking, the build-up of troops along the Ukrainian border, the poisoning and arrest of opposition leader Navalny, simply laughing at them and saying there was no evidence.
Fox's Benjamin Hall, amid COVID's decline, California lifted restrictions today.
As for masks, workplace safety regulators are set to officially adopt rules that say vaccinated employees do not need to wear masks, but businesses will need to verify a person's vaccine status and supply masks to the unvaccinated. And masks will still need to be worn in K through 12 schools, healthcare settings, and on public transportation.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Fewer people are dying from COVID lately, but the total number of U.S. deaths now 37 shy of 600,000. America's listening to Fox News.
Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. Post, screen, and interview. All on Indeed. Get your quality shortlist of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster. Only pay for the candidates that meet must-have qualifications. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Get started right now with the free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
In today's summit with European Union leaders, they reached a deal to end a years-long dispute involving airplane manufacturers over subsidies Boeing gets here and Airbus gets there. President Biden called it a major breakthrough as he also agreed with the EU on a plan to counter China's trade abuses. Speaking of China, we are learning more about a cyber attack being worse than first thought.
The campaign of cyber espionage exploited the Pulse Connect secure networking devices, which are meant to boost internet security. The hack came to light in April, but now the Associated Press says its scope was larger than first known. Verizon, New York City's subway system, and the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California all found Pulse-related hacks, but all three say no data was taken. It's being blamed on China, with state-backed hackers suspected. Pulse Connect Secure is used by many companies and governments for secure remote access to their networks. Its parent company did not comment to the AP on which customers were affected. In New York, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
4 people are dead in Chicago, where an argument inside a home early this morning escalated. Shots were fired. 4 other people were wounded. Police have made no arrests yet. Another shooting early this morning was at an Alabama fire hydrant manufacturing plant. A man shot and killed 2 co-workers, wounded 2 others, then fled and killed himself in his car. We got news on the economy this morning.
Retail sales dropped 1.3% in May. The Commerce Department says shoppers pulled back on buying cars, furniture,
uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government, the real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Later in the hour, the U.S. Postal Service announces that you can deliver the mail yourself if you think it's so easy. But first up in health news, researchers from Harvard University have found a strong link between male virility and wearing Motley Crue denim jackets. For the study, researchers paired fans of the band with a control group and found that those wearing Motley Crue attire were far more likely to knock out some chick's totally jacked boyfriend and then do it with her later that same day than those who simply wore casual clothes and probably wouldn't know what it feels like to have 2 threesomes in one night.
Men who own jackets with an image of Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx sitting on top of a pair of breasts with nipples in the shape of pentagrams showed higher levels of sexual potency, endurance, and libido. These guys do it all the time, and sometimes even in public. They don't care.
Although the study primarily focused on men in Motley Crue jackets, researchers also found that men who listened to Nirvana had a high likelihood of staying virgins forever.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. Take control of the airwaves and talk about whatever is on your mind. That number is 202-380-3699. There is also an alternative way of connecting. I don't know that much about it, so I'm not going to plug it at the moment, but 202-380-3699 will get you connected. With you tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark.
Yeah, I was waiting on a third person. It's been so long since we've done the show with just two people.
Wasn't that yesterday?
Yesterday we had a third person.
We did? Okay.
It was, Choa.
Oh, that's right. You know, I think that it's time for me to, come out and a little confession that's going on. For those that have been listening and thinking, maybe Mark's not entirely himself. He seems to search for words a little more and doesn't remember stuff quite as much. I have had a very real memory issue because of COVID-19. Or at least I've had a very real memory issue. I don't remember why. And
COVID-19 seems like a perfectly valid reason that you might suffer some sort of memory issues.
30% of people have long-term neurological damage because of it. And I'm not saying, I think that the very best practice for me is just being on the air. I just hope that people don't think, wow, this sucks, because sometimes I'm going to search for words, and sometimes I just don't remember stuff. I didn't even remember Joe was on last night. I'm not remembering a lot of things, and believe me, if you're frustrated, imagine how my wife feels. So
that sounds frustrating. Luckily, when I had COVID, it was just like I lost my sense of smell and taste for about 6 to 7 weeks.
Okay.
That was extremely annoying, but there was only one day where I was just like very, very sore and very, very fatigued. And then I was fine again the next day. Other than the lack of smell or taste, which continued for an excessive period of time.
A lot of people have said that coffee didn't taste right for about 3 or 4 days for me.
That was it. Man, I wish I was that fortunate.
Well, I lost 15 pounds in 5 days, and there's no way I could replicate that, so I'm grateful for that particular part. But to me, the most important thing in the world has always been my mind, because that's all you got.
Sure.
And I really don't like that I lost my memory like I did.
That sounds like it would be frustrating.
And my memory wasn't great in the first place.
I don't know how your memory was or wasn't prior to COVID-19, but I definitely have noticed that, like you forgot that Joa was on yesterday.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there are other things that I recalled you have forgotten in the last several months.
Well, you had to do a great deal of work because I lost the password to
something.
Right, to something that was very important for the show, and there was a lot of trying to figure that out, and you were trying to dig into my brain, and there was nothing. It was just a dry well, nothing there.
That was not a fun period.
Yeah,
mostly because of the lockouts. It was just a drag. You could try 1 or 2 passwords, and you had to wait 5 minutes before you could try it again. It's just a massive time sink just to try 40 or 50 variations. Is very.
I'm glad the problem's been solved.
Yes, the problem has been solved.
Yeah.
I am also glad. But, one of the things I meant to mention yesterday, and that I forgot to, is when you got here today, I was listening to music, which, is not uncommon for me. But I've discovered a new genre of rock music, and I really like it. It's called trance metal, and it's filled primarily with female singers, which is how I ended up finding it. And, of course, I'm sure you don't care because it's metal. But it's something I wanted to make people aware of because I wasn't even aware this thing existed. It's sort of a combination of trance techno and metal with female vocals. And some of it's really, really bad, but some of it's also really, really good.
That's true with any genre of music, right? Like some of it's bad and some of it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the music kind of guy. I rarely will play music in the car. I mean, in many cases, if I'm not listening to an audiobook, I'm listening to nothing. I'd rather be alone with my thoughts in many cases. My son has taken up listening to video game tracks that he listens to on YouTube, which couldn't be more annoying as far as I'm concerned. But then again, I used
some video games have had really, really good music.
Yeah.
And some not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what type of music he's listening to. But
it's mostly somebody on a keyboard going, you know.
That sounds pretty annoying.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, I'm the opposite. I'm almost always listening to music, and this new genre of music is keeping me entertained.
Good.
And it's called trance metal, so check it out. Some of it's worth listening to, some of it isn't. Lacuna Coil is one of them. I knew they were a band that existed, but I never paid any attention to them because when I was in high school, I had this friend who was always watching MTV and Carson Daly and TRL and all this other nonsense. So he was always hearing about this is the next big band, and they would have one song and then they would fade into obscurity. So I stopped paying any attention to him. And he was the one who told me about Lacuna Coil, so I wrote them off the same way I did, Edema and Nonpoint and all of these other 90s bands that went nowhere. But as it turns out, Lacuna Coil is still around, and they're still really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those businesses. If you continue to work, you will have work, you know?
Yep. So the former CDC director, now Fox News sucks, I've learned, but MSNBC News, which is one of the two news outlets I requested, is significantly worse. I just about am entirely limited to Fox News because when you go to MSNBC.com, it's just opinion piece after opinion piece and nothing that's actually news. And the vast majority of it is just conservatives bad, Trump bad. Trump's not even president anymore. How long is MSNBC going to kick this dead horse?
Well, I saw a news article, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that it was CNN and MSNBC, if I remember correctly, and I could look it up. I was just talking about how bad my memory is. And the claim was they mentioned Trump last month more than they mentioned Biden, and that's pretty impressive.
I believe it. Like if you go to MSNBC News, MSNBC.com right now, the very first thing is about Trump. The next thing is about Southern Baptists. The next thing is about Trump. Then it's about McDonald. Then it's about Texas Republicans. Then it's about Trump. Then it's about conservatives. And it's just, in just the screen that I'm looking at, there is not a single mention of the current president, and instead it's just all Trump.
Well, that says to me that they're trying to distract your attention from the current president, is what it says to me.
Well, it's been 6 months since Trump was removed from office. When are they going to find something else to talk about?
It's amazing. Who knows?
Well, Fox News seems to be talking about other stuff, but the MSNBC is all about the whistleblower. Do you know anything about Reality Winner? Because I don't.
Reality Winner is a whistleblower that had something to do with the Trump Russia thing, and that's that.
I don't know anything about it, but MSNBC has an opinion piece about it, thankfully. Congressional Democrats are demanding answers after recent reports that the Department of Justice under then-President Donald Trump subpoenaed communications and metadata from them and reporters in a leak probe. Meanwhile, Reality Winner, the former NSA contractor who was convicted in 2018 of leaking documents to The Intercept, was released from prison early on May. The two cases may seem unconnected. They sound entirely unconnected. But they share at their core a simple question, one at the heart of every debate about whistleblowers, leakers, government transparency, and sealed investigations. In the United States, who has the power to determine what should be secret? And I think that's important. My answer would be everything should be transparent.
I wonder about this. On one hand, you have the argument that some things have to be secret because Z Germans, Z Russians, Z Chinese, whomever is the boogeyman at the time. And there's no doubt that the Chinese government is trying to collect data on American citizens as much as it possibly can. And that is scary just for the fact that they would even consider doing such a thing. But on the other hand...
the United States government is also doing its best to collect information about American citizens.
Agreed. But if you're talking about a king collecting information on his serfs, that's far less disturbing than a king from another country collecting information on your serfs.
I find them equally disturbing.
I
really.
don't.
I don't want any government in my business collecting information about me.
China's an ethno state, and that means, and since you ain't that ethno, they don't have good thoughts about you.
More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. 202-380-3699. You can join the discussion, talk about whatever's on your mind. That's 202-380-3699. You know, it's really kind of hard to believe that Bitcoin has only existed for a little over a decade. And that decade has seen some remarkable developments for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Already, Bitcoin has proven to be an invaluable tool that's changing the world. Chances are you've heard about it, but maybe you've decided it's time to finally learn about it. Bitcoin.com has everything you need for that, including some very short videos that will only take a few minutes out of your time to teach you the basics so that you can get involved with this groundbreaking technology. But even if you already know about Bitcoin, there's still something for you at Bitcoin.com. Stay up to date on all the news that's relevant to you at news.bitcoin.com, because there's something for everyone, from the novice to the professional, or the expert rather, at Bitcoin.com. And it's all on a sleek, easy-to-use, modern website. Check it out, Bitcoin.com. With you tonight, it's Arya and Mark. And I'm frustrated by MSNBC's obsession with Republicans and conservatives. You actually have something about this from Real Clear Politics that actually has numbers and data points to back up its argument, because I'm just looking at the site and seeing, oh my God, these people are obsessed with Donald Trump.
Right. I'm not. I haven't had a chance to read through this article, although I have looked at the charts on it and had read it, a little bit of it earlier. I wasn't expecting to talk about this. RealClearPolitics.com, Kelev Litaru reporting CNN and MSNBC still mention Trump more than Biden. Who's receiving more attention on television since the inauguration? President Biden or former President Donald Trump? The graph below shows the total mentions of President Biden across CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and BBC News London since Biden's inauguration day. Fox News has mentioned him the most. Even BBC News London has mentioned him nearly a third as often as CNN and MSNBC. And so it's Fox News that's mentioned Biden more than anybody, for what that's worth. In contrast, the graph below
Are they mentioning Biden in a nice way?
Well, it doesn't say that. That's not what it's addressing. It's just saying it.
Okay.
In contrast, the graph below shows the Fox News has covered former President Donald Trump far less than CNN or MSNBC. Look closely, and you'll notice that CNN and MSNBC actually have mentioned Trump more than Biden. The graph below compares two presidents since Biden's inauguration. Since Biden's inauguration, comparing mentions of Biden against Trump. Oh, they made Trump orange and Biden blue. Nice. On MSNBC,
that's
former
awesome.
President Trump has received 129%. On MSNBC, former President Trump has received 129% of the coverage that President Biden, followed closely by CNN's 118%. That's since Biden's inauguration. So
they're covering him a little over 25% more than they are Joe Biden.
Now, I don't know what Fox was doing post-Obama in 2016 about this time, but I mean, and I'm sure we would have called them pathetic when we did, but I mean,
we sort of
pathetic.
have an idea based on what Fox News is doing with Joe Biden. I mean, Fox News is talking about Joe Biden. I don't think that Fox beat the Barack Obama is bad dead horse after Obama left office.
I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt it at all. I got to say that these ones that take sides, and I used to think of CNN as the one that didn't take sides. I do not think that anymore.
No, they're hard left.
But these ones that don't take sides, or that do take sides, they definitely want to talk about the one that they hate more than the one that they like.
And that's curious.
It's not curious if, like, once you know it, then you understand what they're doing. They're creating factions. If your guy isn't so great, you don't talk about him. You talk about the other guy, and that's the truth.
The guy who would be irrelevant if you stopped talking about him. What relevance does Trump have to the world today?
Well, a lot of people hate him. That's the relevance.
That's not relevance, though.
It's relevance if you're looking for ratings. It's not relevant if you're looking to, I don't know, produce journalism and news.
It's easy just to forget about Donald Trump and never let him occupy another moment of my brain.
This is why I like libertarianism, because we care about, like the issue as opposed to the person. You know, libertarians are almost never going to get out there and pound the drum of the libertarian. And if a libertarian's bad on an issue, they will tell you that they are bad on an issue. They're not libertarian on an issue. So it's...
Well, every libertarian I've ever met is the only real libertarian.
Right. Indeed. But when it comes to the Democrats and the Republicans, if you have a conversation, and you've had these conversations with people in your life, they want to talk about how bad the other guy is, and they want you to ignore how bad their guy is. And that's the conversation the whole way through.
Yeah, that's pretty much my experience with people.
And if you get tired of the conversation, just tell them you don't vote from a principled standpoint, and they leave you alone immediately.
Really?
Yeah, they just don't care anymore. Poop.
Well, I guess not.
Because not voting isn't a solution to anything. Not voters, you know. It's the only thing it's a solution to is having conversations about voting.
You're a non-voter, right?
I am. I'll vote any opportunity I get, but I cannot vote in the presidential election because I am a resident of the U.S. Marianas.
Ah, okay.
So
but that's a new development. Did you vote in the presidential election in 2016?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the libertarian in that one?
I
Is
don't
it Gary
know.
Johnson?
Probably.
Yeah, I voted for Gary Johnson.
Okay.
Both times.
I could not bring myself to vote for Gary Johnson. Not that it would have mattered, but I just did not approve of him or his positions. But I wanted John McAfee, you know.
Well, for me, you should. For me, I prefer the notion of voting over not voting for myself. If you don't want to vote yourself, then fine. I don't care because nobody cares what somebody who doesn't vote thinks. So
I don't know. The vast majority of Americans are non-voters, aren't they? Is it what? Maybe
well, not in the
vast
Trump
majority.
Not in the Trump election when everybody got to stay home.
Yeah, I guess so.
When Trump stacked the deck against himself by keeping everybody home.
But most Americans don't vote. Is that correct?
Are we talking about in a presidential election or just sort of generally, or what's the question?
Just sort of in general.
So in local elections, especially if those local elections are held separately from a national election, you will get a lot of people who, like 90% of people don't vote. And sometimes it's higher than that.
Well, it's hard to care about a local election for most people because of this hatred, this factionizing that we have.
Sure, but the local election's the important one, where you're actually dealing with issues that you're going to deal with. I mean,
and you can actually affect the outcome.
Most of the tyranny that you're going to deal with in life is not going to come from the United States federal government. So, I mean, there's a little bit here and there. I've had to deal with some stuff. Trump getting rid of the Obama tax thing, the Obamacare cost
the
thing.
Affordable Care Act
was good for me. Yeah. And bad for me was when he stopped cruise ships and travel to Cuba, because I had a cruise actually planned to Cuba with the folks from Freedom Fest.
What are your thoughts? Do you vote in local elections or only presidential elections? 202-380-3699.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
If you're looking for work, there's a piece of paper more important than your resume. It's the cover letter attached if you're snail mailing, or the email to which you attach your resume. Make it 4 short paragraphs. Paragraph 1, say that you're applying for work. The person you're sending to gets a ton of mail about all sorts of things. If you have a password, that's your first sentence. Tom Nelson tells me you and I should meet. Paragraph 2, what you do and how that relates to the opening. Be as specific as possible. Paragraph 3, why you want this particular job. I'm originally from Boston, so I know the market well. I have family and friends in the area, so this would be a homecoming for me. Paragraph 4, unless the job posting stipulates no calls, and I will call you to follow up. Thank you in advance for your time. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699. That's the new number. You're welcome to call in, join the show, and talk about whatever is on your mind. 202-380-3699. With you tonight is Aria and Mark, just sort of making fun of MSNBC at the moment because they are obsessed with Donald Trump, despite the fact that he left office more than almost 6 months ago. And it's not surprising because Obama spent the better part of 8 years talking about George W. Bush. And if I recall correctly, George W. Bush spent the better part of 8 years talking about, well, no, he mostly just talked about WMDs and the war on terror, didn't he?
I don't like, I mean, a few times I remember Obama mentioning the former administration and things like that, but,
Really? I seem to recall it happening a lot, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's go to the phones. We've got David calling from Michigan. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, what's happening, guys? So, Arya and Mark, thank you so much for bringing back the Mark Ian aesthetic. You guys emulate it perfectly, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've said more than once that Arya's Ian in a dress.
I don't know how to feel about that, Mark.
Yeah, well...
That's a little mean, but I'm
not a nice guy. I mean, I didn't get here by being nice, David.
Right on. And Aria, there's no kitty cam tonight.
That's because there actually is now. I just turned it on. The cat wasn't in my lap, so
is she in there now?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just pointing at my lap, and it's kind of weird.
Aria's poor cat is having issues right now. She's, I believe, in heat, going into heat or going out of heat, and Boy, does she need some attention.
Well, she always needs attention. That's not new.
Well, she jumped up in my lap, which is new. It's the first time that's ever happened.
Well, I had the stream up on the TV, and my kitties love seeing Arya's kitties, so there's that.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's a sweet, sweet animal.
Well, thank you so much for the call tonight, David. I guess I'm happy to know that, I consider Ian to be, the pinnacle of doing talk radio, so if we can emulate the dynamic between you and Ian, I consider that a compliment.
I think it's what made Free Talk Live what it is people, people, when any other show out there, the host is such an arrogant, impossible individual.
Like you.
Well, I don't think I am that, but that's fine.
Well, you are very arrogant. You call
arrogant
yourself...
people never imagine for a second that they're actually arrogant.
Okay.
But let's move on from that particular topic. It may or may not be true.
You're like pretend arrogant.
I don't know. I think that I am vain, but I know that I'm vain, and so therefore I can work within a world with understanding that.
I'll give you that. You're vain, not arrogant. Okay.
And so, but these talk show hosts, they don't want to hear anything that sounds like somebody disagreeing with them. And Free Talk Live brings to the airwaves disagreement. Sure. And even when we agree on a lot of topics, and you can bring up anything on Free Talk Live, and the number is
202-380-3699.
And
it's going to take me a really long time to memorize that.
Yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon for me either. And who knows how long we're going to have that number, so, whatever the case may be. But, we just have a different dynamic. Ian and I managed to, like I said, I made a living disagreeing with Ian. And, you and I have a similar chemistry. I think you're really sort of stepping into it. There was a conversation a few weeks ago with the co-host where I'm like, y'all need to disagree more. Sure. And, I gave everybody license to disagree with me where I don't know that I have done that recently. Of course, anybody can disagree with me. My opinion isn't right on everything. I mean, what kind of insane, megalomaniacal idiot would believe that they're right about everything? I simply have opinions, and those opinions need to be challenged in order for us to determine whether those opinions are right or wrong. And I don't stick to an opinion just because I came up with an opinion. I stick to an opinion because I'm kind of rigid in my thinking. I'll try a new idea out, and it takes me a little while to try the next one and the next one and the next one. I'm not that fluid. I'm significantly more fluid than, say, most people who do my line of work. But I'm not likely to change my opinion in an evening. There have been a few times. Most recently, I can recall Starchild, one of our listener from San Francisco, a listener from San Francisco, calling in and challenging me on something. I'm like, that's right. And, in an instant, changed my opinion. But it doesn't happen a lot.
No, but I mean, you asked who believes that they're right all the time, and I just want to point out that believing yourself to be right all the time prevents you from ever learning anything.
Yeah.
Because in order to learn something, you have to admit that you're wrong or you don't know something. Someone who believes they know everything has shut off their capacity to learn. That's dangerous.
People ask me to participate in debates all the time, and I'm like, I don't want to participate in debate. A debate suggests that I am right on a subject and that I will not change my opinion. But if the person in the debate presents information to me that to which I don't have an answer, is the first step in changing my mind.
Sure.
And then sort of the second step is making a good argument for your case and that sort of thing. Yeah, I want to be able to change my mind on a particular topic.
Well, you can still do that during a debate. You would just sort of concede the debate.
You could, sure. But I don't like the term. I don't participate in debates. I participate in discussions.
That's a better term, I think.
And I want to discuss the topic, whatever the topic might be. In this case, are CNN and MSNBC just obsessed with Trump for the purpose of getting more ratings and fanning the flames of the hatred of their, mind-numbed adherents? Look, I understand if you don't like Trump. He wasn't my favorite president either. And I understand if you don't like Biden.
Out of all of the presidents that have that have been president in my lifetime, I have to say, honestly, I think Trump probably was my favorite.
Really?
He's the only one that didn't start a new war. And if for that reason...
It seemed like he was trying with Iran.
But he didn't start
He didn't.
And I mean, they've been trying with Iran for such a very long time, going all the way back to, George W. Bush.
The number one thing I liked about Donald Trump, and I'm willing to say this all the time, is I can't remember exactly, but it was like a response. He was going to respond to Iran's response to the killing of the general or something like that. And he said, no, I think it was the Iran bothering the ships out in the Persian Gulf. And he said, well, they told me that they were going to kill like 127 people, and so I called off the attack. And
Trump said that?
Yeah, he said that.
Okay.
And it was soldiers in all likelihood, but
Sure.
they're still people, and in many cases, soldiers are doing a job because, they needed school, they need money, they need whatever it is that they're doing. And the idea of just wiping these people's lives out as though they're meaningless, the vast majority of these sociopathic crazies in Washington, D.C.
The ones who could perpetually fund the war machine.
The ones that that people were so crazy to put back in office. My God, we've got to get these politicians back in office. You know what we need? We need a career sociopath to deal with Donald Trump. And admittedly, Donald Trump is, this guy intended to divide America. So he got himself some division, no doubt. I don't particularly care that he didn't make it back in office, but I feel like...
I don't know that Trump intended to divide America.
Oh, yeah?
I think he just expressed his opinions, and his opinions had that result.
He switched from being a Democrat to being a Republican because he believed the Republicans were more pliable from a political standpoint. I think he
was certainly
absolutely
right.
intended to do that.
But how is that dividing America? That's just exploiting the ignorance of Republicans.
Well, that's...
I did that.
And it's been... Well, that's what you did, right? Like, you divided Republicans, you divided the county when you ran for sheriff. There's no doubt. I mean, people have an opinion on Aria DiMezzo, and for better or for worse.
That was a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
I don't regret anything about it. 202-380-3699 if you want to join the discussion here. That's 202-380-3699. More coming up. Mark has a story about how TikTok is spying and collecting biometric data. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
You can tell by the way they're dressed, by their demeanor, that these are illegal. Do you understand that they bring in leprosy and
God, here's the leprosy.
tuberculosis?
Show me the news story about leprosy and not some
Do you
crackpot
understand
website.
this is our country and
Yes,
this is
hold
about
on.
our
Wait,
children?
Wait, stop the jingoistic crap. You're picking
Speaker,
and choosing.
and
You're
I'm
saying
not
that a
afraid
bunch
of
of
the government,
murdering,
okay?
raping lepers are coming across the border.
Oh, yes, they are. In
No,
fact,
that's nuts, Trish.
There's a leprosy
If
colony
that
in
was the
Texas.
case, then in fact we would all know about it. I mean,
No, you
it
wouldn't.
sounds like the Night of the
No,
Living
you
Dead
wouldn't.
down there at the border, and they're just coming across
Do you
looking for
think-
the brains.
You think CNN and Fox News is going to tell you this? You got another thing coming.
Why wouldn't they?
It
It'd be
is
great for
planned
ratings.
by design. It's meant to bring this country
Oh, now there's
to
a
its
conspiracy behind it, right? You're going to tell me the
I don't know
NWO's
if you
behind all
realize
this?
it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699 if you want to join the discussions. That's 202-380-3699. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark.
And someone got swallowed by a humpback whale.
That is correct.
I saw this and I assumed it was a Babylon Bee or Onion article, and I just kept going. Someone actually got swallowed by a whale, though.
Yeah, somebody's silly enough to be in the water off of Cape Cod. Massachusetts...
Do whales commonly swallow people?
No.
Okay.
There's the Jonah story.
Well, yes, but that's
it doesn't actually claim because people of that age didn't know that whales were mammals. They called it a giant fish or something. Yeah, and who knows?
Sure. I tend to assume that all of these stories in the Bible are fiction.
That's what I'm assuming too, but it's the only thing I've got. You asked about whales swallowing people. That's what I got for you.
Okay, but this actually happened.
Yes. A veteran Cape Cod, Massachusetts lobster diver is home from the hospital after he says he was swallowed by a humpback whale off the coast of Provincetown while headed to Nineveh.
Absolutely crazy.
That's a Bible joke.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is that actually in the article, or did
no?
You just, okay, that's unfortunate. That would have been great if that was
early
in the
Friday
article.
morning. Yeah.
Well, before we get into it, let's go to the phones. We got Tom calling from New Hampshire. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live.
When you talk about the non-aggression principle, a question arises as to what is aggression, and I want to bring up something that happened in Trenton, New Jersey, on Thursday morning, 26 December 1776, when some garrison of Hessian soldiers were just, all they were doing was sleeping off their hangovers. They were totally peaceful at the time, and George Washington and his men went over there and attacked them and ambushed them and clobbered them, and it was a rout in favor of George Washington and his men. And that's not a violation of the non-aggression principle, even though some of the Hessian soldiers may have been drafted, and they were members of the armed forces of a hostile government that was on a mission to continue aggressions that were enumerated a few months earlier in the Declaration of Independence.
I would
And
have to
nowadays-
disagree, Tom. I think that would qualify as aggression because
Yeah, that sounds like aggression to me.
the Hessians, or whatever you said they were not currently engaged in the act of aggression. If we're assuming that they intended to aggress against people in the future, but until they actually did that, it's aggression.
That's one way to look at it, I suppose. I don't agree with that one, but nowadays the FBI would be all over George Washington and his men for what they did, not only the attack on the garrison, but conspiracy to commit the attack. And, they committed one of the most serious, most despicable, most wicked crimes that there is. And if you happen to find a New Jersey state quarter in your pocket, you take a look at the back of it, you'll see that crime glorified on the United States money because they crossed a state line to get there. Now, speaking of the FBI, I got a knock at the door on 3 August of 2017, and it was none other than Federal Bureau of Investigation goon Mark A. Hastabacker giving me a lecture about federal law about criminal threatening and showing me a copy of a letter that I sent to a member of the New York legislature, putting the blood of a slain cop on the hands of lawmakers who were soft on police brutality. Or as the Declaration of Independence calls it, quote, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. One of the members that got that letter was so furious that they called the FBI, which means that I'm onto something here. The power of putting that approach, putting the blood of the slain cops on the hands of lawmakers who voted for the provocation. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know that getting visited by the FBI necessarily counts as a victory, but it's...
Oh, Ian would call it that. If you're not taking flack, you're not over the target.
Well, there are ways to catch flack without being shot directly, right? And the FBI showing at your door.
It sounds very much like if you're not in jail being sodomized at this moment, you are not a sufficient activist. That's what it sounds like to me.
Now, anyway, I also suspect that what they were trying to do was showing me this letter, and I'm supposed to be scared and embarrassed and humiliated and then mess up. Where some people mess up is they lie to the FBI and say,
No, you messed up when you talked to the FBI, just so you know.
I tend to agree. Yeah, never talk to the FBI.
Oh, I some of them say, I never sent this letter that has my return address. And
no, that's a bad idea, yeah.
And so that's a bad idea. So maybe that's what they were doing. But the one thing that Free Talk Live hosts might consider doing when things happen. Let's say somebody who lost their job because of a recession, and then they can't find a job because of the recession, and then they get their eviction notice, and they're at their wit's end. His wife leaves him because he doesn't have a job, so he goes out and punishes the government. There's a lot of people that need to be enlightened that the solution isn't throwing more stolen money at subsidized housing and busy work jobs programs. The solution is to remove the zoning restrictions and the government mandates like health insurance. They keep driving up the cost of health insurance that's mandatory if somebody wants to hire you. And eliminating some of these things is the solution, not throwing, because a lot of people just aren't enlightened yet. So that's where I think the Free Talk Live hosts and listeners can be very helpful in guiding this country toward liberty.
Cool.
But be sure to put the blood.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call tonight, Tom. I'm not sure how someone losing their job and then proceeding to write a bunch of letters to representatives and stuff is really going to help them any. I would think that someone who loses their job, their wife leaves them, they lose their house, they get the eviction notice or whatever, all of the other stuff that you said, their time would be best served looking for a new job rather than, mailing senators.
That does sound like a better idea to me, but he is correct that jurisdictions matter, regulation matters, laws matter. I mean, all you have to do is look at the difference between Hong Kong and mainland China, or Shenzhen, which was set up next to Hong Kong to basically benefit from that, is all you have to do is look at these historically and see the difference. Is that laws matter.
Well, yeah, they matter because people with guns enforce them. But if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, even if laws aren't terribly well enforced, the very existence of them stifles growth. I mean, there's plenty of banana republics out there with a bunch of crappy laws that are very rarely enforced. If they are, they're selective and all that sort of thing. But those places can't get any money because businesses that want to set up, like real businesses with real money. I'm not talking about middle-class people trying to make a living here. I'm talking about the moneyed interests of the world. They won't set up there because they don't think they can keep their stuff, keep their investment. Would you set up a oil mining business in Venezuela?
No.
That's right. And it won't happen for decades because Maduro and then Chavez before him nationalized these projects. And did that help the people of Venezuela?
Well,
no.
Clearly not. They're drinking, sewage water, and the Bolivar is circling the drain.
That's because socialism kills, quite literally. And I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders' democratic socialism.
Well, that kills people too. It just takes it a little while longer to get to that point.
I don't think that the thing they call democratic socialism is socialism at all.
No, it's closer to fascism.
I think it's just modern. It's a modern mixed economy that leans a little more towards the left than the right. I mean, I don't have good terminology for it because there isn't good terminology for it because the democratic socialists hate no one more than the social democrats. Like they fight and fight and fight over these terms when these terms should be like Nazi. Stalin, the guy who defeated Hitler, killed more people, was responsible for the death of more people than Hitler could have ever imagined. But we have Holocaust museums all over the world. We have no museums about the ills of socialism, so the young people of today are like, socialism sounds pretty good because somebody said it was good and my teacher said it was good. Like, they don't even know what it is. Socialism is state ownership of the means of production. It has a definition.
Yes, and it's consistently led to death and starvation every single time it's been tried. What are your thoughts? 202-380-3699. It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
A unified front. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The U.S. and European Union issuing a statement calling for a thorough investigation into the origins of COVID-19.
We call for progress on a transparent, evidence-based, and expert-led WHO-convened Phase 2 study on the origins of COVID-19 that is free from interference, and we commit to working together towards the development and use of a swift and independent means for investigating such outbreaks in the future. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who was also on this trip with President Biden, called the World Health Organization's first investigation highly deficient and that there needs to be accountability for China.
Fox's Rich Edson in Geneva. Johns Hopkins University says the U.S. has topped 600,000 deaths from COVID-19. A federal judge in Louisiana has blocked the Biden administration's suspension of a new oil and gas leases on federal land and water. The moratorium was put in place after President Biden signed an executive order January 27th to fight climate change. The suit was filed in March by 13 states, which argue it was undertaken without the required comment periods and other bureaucratic steps. FBI Director Christopher Wray appeared before the House Oversight Committee today as it held another hearing into the Capitol Hill riot. He told the panel the Bureau has made dozens of arrests.
The FBI's agents, analysts, and professionals, alongside our partners, have been working around the clock to track down those who participated in the attack, to hold them accountable.
The committee released emails earlier today that showed President Trump put pressure on the Justice Department to investigate unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud. One of two former students accused in a fatal shooting at a school in suburban Denver in 2018 has been found guilty of murder. Prosecutors say Devin Erickson was a full partner with Alec McKinney in the shooting that killed one student at STEM school Highlands Ranch. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
Lawmakers in Minnesota reach a deal to end the state's coronavirus eviction moratorium.
State Republicans and Democrats in Minnesota have come to an agreement under which the governor's executive order restricting evictions during the coronavirus pandemic will be replaced by what lawmakers are calling a stepped-down off-ramp, in which landlords will be required to send notices to renters with outstanding rent payments 15 days before eviction. But renters with outstanding rental assistance claims can't be evicted and will have protection until June 1st of next year. Jeff Monasso, Fox News.
Mexico has received over 1.3 million doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine donated by the U.S. The doses will be used to vaccinate anyone over 18 in 4 cities along the U.S. border. Mexico says the goal is to boost vaccination rates there so they're similar to U.S. cities. This is the U.S. and Mexico have reduced border crossings to essential travel since early in the pandemic. Amtrak is offering a deal for cross-country travel this summer.
Expecting a boom in travel, the rail service is trying to attract customers by offering $200 off to take up to 10 rides at many of its 500 destinations for a limited time. The passes are available to purchase through June the 22nd to take a multi-segment train journey across America for $299, which the company says is less than $30 per ride for 10 trips over 30 days. The pass, which normally costs $499 per.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
They started with Google Glass, and now the engineers behind Google have created a new body part to strap gadgets onto. They're calling it the flange, and the new synthetic skin appendage fits between the shoulder blades into a flat surface capable of holding a wide array of new gadgets for Google to hawk to consumers. While unveiling the innovation today, Google CEO Larry Page said, quote, "The possibilities for the number of completely pointless gadgets to strap, bind, and stick to your body are now endless." Early adopters are already raving about the synthetic body part.
It overheats and burns my skin pretty bad when I have it on, but I'm really getting to like it.
I'm actually thinking of getting a second one installed.
Critics are cautioning the tech world to not hail the flange as an achievement yet, since several users have reported problems with the device permanently grafting to their spinal column if worn overnight. Coming up next, Doritos unveils new e-Doritos that come in JPEG form whenever you're hungry.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 202-380-3699 if you want to join the discussion. That's 202-380-3699. Got sidetracked a bit and started talking about how much socialism sucks. And, I have to offer the same, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but, socialism and communism and all of these other isms, in theory, could work. I want to be clear about that. I don't hate the idea of socialism. I mean, sure, if you want to get a bunch of socialists together or communists and have your socialist or communist society, there is no reason that couldn't actually work and produce a very strong, very valuable society. It's just not likely, and seeing it implemented has consistently led to death. I don't recall ever reading any articles about anyone fleeing the horrors of the free market.
Well, some would tell you that they have, but nonetheless, there are those that would blame every problem in existence on capitalism. They don't know what capitalism is, don't have a good definition for it, and that's fine. I would say the definition of communism is communal ownership of pretty much everything, maybe with the exception of some personal property or something like personal effects or something like that, but basically communal ownership of property, period. And well, the situation that we're in is essentially already socialist. You're allowed to own things that don't produce, right? The few things that you're allowed to own that produce are things like your vehicle, which is heavily regulated, heavily restricted. I don't know that you own your vehicle. If you have to pay every year, especially in some states where you pay based on the value of the vehicle. Here in New Hampshire, if you have a Tesla, you're going to pay a lot for your registration every year versus if you have a 1986 Toyota Corolla. Right. Whereas in Florida, it didn't make a difference. It was one set price for any kind of car from Rolls-Royce to Daihatsu. It didn't make the least bit of difference.
Okay.
So I'd say that if they choose, admittedly, you're choosing to drive on their road and you're choosing where you live and some things like that. So there are some choices in it. But do you really own a vehicle that you have to pay based on its value every year?
Fair point. I would offer the same criticism about property taxes and stuff like that.
Sure.
You don't really, you're renting, even if you own your home outright, you're renting it from the government, and they can evict you at any time if you don't pay your yearly rent.
That's right.
Called property tax.
You have a higher level of renter status as a property owner.
But the ultimate owner is the government, the state. And that's true of, pretty much everything that produces. You're allowed to own things that don't produce. You're allowed to own toothpaste and soap and deodorant and all of these other things, and maybe even a computer or so. But
you can produce with computers.
But if you want to actually have a factory or do something that requires employees to produce materials, a good for people to consume, you're heavily regulated by the government, who has to license you and regulate you and can shut you down at any time because they're ultimately the owners.
The governments throughout time have claimed two things. They've claimed the ownership of all the land within their given, polygon on the map.
Yeah.
And they've claimed the ownership of the people within that polygon. Now, that ownership throughout time has become less and less, right? Like I call what we have free-range serfdom. Because you can pick where you live so long as you ask permission. If you want to go outside of the United States polygon, you have to ask permission.
And that wasn't the case in medieval feudalism, where the lord that you worked for was the lord that you worked for, and you couldn't just go and work for a different lord.
Not very easily.
You had to get your current lord's permission.
Yeah, I mean, traveling from town to town was not nearly as common as it is today. It was often done by minstrels and people like that. They just didn't care.
Well, and merchants.
Yeah, merchants and stuff like that.
Well, I'm referring more to the laborer.
To the serf, right.
Yeah.
But the average serf is like, wouldn't want to go work for that other lord because this is his town, this is where he grew up, this is, where his family is and that sort of thing. But it's true. So, one of the distinction I like to make is between statism and socialism. So socialism, I defined earlier, as state ownership of the means of production. But that has a meaning that is a little unclear. So it's when the government tries to run things like electric companies or fire departments or something like an oil drilling company. I mean, this has worked very badly. Every time the government gets into something, they can take a profitable business and very quickly turn it into a huge money sink, and it's amazing to watch.
It is, and this is why I would argue that what we have in the United States is actually closer to fascism, which would be state control of the means of production through puppeteer corporations.
I dislike the term fascism simply because it is it has so much baggage that people simply can't define it. And you could define it because you'll come up with the Mussolini definition. You'll say Mussolini had a definition for fascism, and it was a marriage between the corporate and the state, and blah 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 blah. Right? And I don't have it in front of me.
Well, he was the one who. It's essentially that, and he was the one who invented fascism. So I would
fascism was invented in the United States by Woodrow Wilson and his ilk. The United States has a long lineage of fascism.
You're not wrong, but we didn't. It started in World War I prior to the rise of Mussolini. You're absolutely right. When the industrialization, the mobilization, all of these corporate heads started meeting in back rooms and working closely with government to figure out, hey, this is how we're going to mobilize all of these industries to work for the government, but we're not really going to let people know that we're government employees and that we're doing this at your behest for your benefit. And it's just sort of escalated during World War II, and then it carried on, and now we're in this position where you can't even buy a freaking toilet without it being subject to 8,000 different regulations.
The point that I would like to make is that fascism is a loaded term. And I'm not saying you're incorrect. I'm saying that we need to use terms that people can access. And so a term like, say, mercantilist or something like that, which might be a little...
Corporatism?
Corporatism is the term I like to use because corporatism sort of, corporation's a term that everybody can agree corporations do not take responsibility for their actions the way that they should, and that the people at the top of corporations...
because the government's running guard for them so they don't have to.
Yes.
Because it's fascism.
And that's why we call it corporatism, because it doesn't have the sort of Nazi goose-stepping, we hate black people kind of shebang to it that fascism has, or Jews, and I don't know, everybody else. Don't forget to throw in the gypsies and the Jehovah's Witnesses.
But it absolutely does have that. We talked about it last night with the hatred for the straight cis white male coming from the liberals, and the hatred of the Hispanic immigrants coming from the conservatives.
Okay, so yes, there is a modern... so politics is about dividing people. And don't you forget it, ladies and gentlemen. Politicians have no power if you don't hate somebody. Because you think about the person you dislike the most, the group that you dislike the most, and the politician that you like the most dislikes that group of people the most.
This is why the solution to all of these problems is to simply love one another.
It's a great way, right? One love. And what I love about Bob Marley, I'm really not that big of a fan of his music, but what I love about him is that he had the belief that he could create world peace with simply the creation of music. And if you believe that what you're doing has that kind of huge global effect, you will work in that way. I come to work with the belief that I can create a more harmonious and more peaceful and more loving world every single day. Now, do I forget it when I'm on the air? You better believe I do. There's no doubt about it.
Well, no one's perfect.
But I try to say this mantra to myself that I can create this every single time because I'm inspired by Bob Marley. But anyway, let me go on.
Well, that's what we do here on Free Talk Live consistently, is spread the ideas of peace, love, liberty, and forgiveness.
I certainly try to. But I can't say
that
that I
would solve all of the problems in the world if people just perpetually operated from those positions of, hey, instead of hating one another, let's love one another. Instead of holding grudges, let's forgive one another. If just these simple, little, tiny steps that take almost no effort could have world peace tomorrow.
Well, it's a lofty goal. And
All
I'm
people have to do is love one another.
Love is the way to start, yes.
202-380-3699. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. It's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699 if you want to join the discussion. Someone got swallowed by a whale while swimming off the coast of somewhere. I don't know exactly where because I wasn't...
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod, that's Massachusetts, right?
It sure is, yeah.
Not far from here, then. Now, you said they were stupid for swimming out there. Why?
It's cold.
Okay.
I mean...
It is cold. Recently... my Google Photos thing was like, hey, remember a year ago when you went to the Hampton Beach here in New Hampshire? I was like, yeah, it was freezing cold. It wasn't freezing cold, but it was like 50 degrees. It was wet, and it was
not so great, yeah.
Not a pleasant experience. I can't imagine the beaches here in the Northeast are really welcoming and inviting, except maybe in late July or early August. But yeah, anyone swimming right now is kind of crazy, in my opinion.
This guy likely had on some kind of outfit. Let me read the story here. A veteran Cape Cod, Massachusetts lobster diver is home from the hospital after he says he was swallowed by a humpback whale off the coast of Provincetown early Friday morning. Michael Packard says his vessel was positioned off Herring Cove Beach, surrounded by a fleet of fishing boats. The 56-year-old Wellfleet man plucks lobsters off the bottom of the ocean floor. He told the Cape Cod Times he was about 35 feet down when he was swallowed by a humpback whale. I thought there's no way I'm going to get out of this with sheer brute. I guess that's the way he talks. It's either he's going to let me go or this is where I'm going to die. And I really thought this is where I'm going to die.
I would imagine so. If you get swallowed by a whale, what else could go through your head?
All I could think of was my sons, my wife, and my mom, and I thought it was just over. And that sounds legitimately like what you think of when you are dying. Packard estimates...
I don't know what I would think about if swallowed by a freaking whale.
I don't know. I just love hearing you say well.
Well?
Well.
Why?
Because it's whale. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm from Mississippi, Mark.
I try. I don't know what the accent is separate. I don't know. I mean, I've heard other people, but I didn't know they were all from Mississippi that do the well, kel, del kind of sound to it.
So I'm saying it well.
Well, you're saying well as in a place that you from which you draw water.
Okay, and it's
versus whale,
yeah.
Which is a large mammal that swims in the water.
I've never given it any thought whatsoever.
I know. I hear you.
Yeah.
That's how accents are.
Yeah.
It's just the way you are.
I don't pronounce ale like L, So why would I?
Ale is in
L is in the drink.
The drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't say L.
No.
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 Okay. Say ale.
Ale.
Okay. It's close though.
I guess.
Yeah. But if you put a W in front of that would still be whale. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I saw a light and white water everywhere, and all of a sudden, I was thrown from his mouth. Packard says he was shaking his head, trying to eject me out of his mouth.
So was he actually swallowed by a whale, or was he just like in the mouth of one?
In the mouth of a whale. I don't think that you could even go down the throat of a humpback whale because of the baleen.
The what now?
Baleen. It's a bone, a thin bone filter. They just make combs out of it if it tells you how thin it is.
Okay.
A thin bone filter that they use to get the krill, as opposed to filtering out bigger things that they might get up in their mouths.
Okay.
So, anyway, last thing I saw was his tail going down, and here I was lying on the surface, Packard says.
Wouldn't you think someone who was a professional lobster catcher or whatever it is that he does would know that it probably wasn't possible for the whale to swallow him?
I don't think you're thinking that stuff at all. And he did essentially think that. He did essentially think that.
You are in the mouth of a whale.
Either he's going to spit me out, or this is where I'm going to die. And that is an accurate assessment of what was going on. He wasn't going to die 18 feet down the whale's throat. He was going to die right there in its mouth, caught in the baleen. And so, no, I think he had a very accurate assessment of what was going on.
Okay.
And, if the whale didn't get him out of the mouth, there's a lot of panic, and I don't know what his equipment was or how long he was, had. Like, maybe he had some diving equipment and he could have stayed down there for another 20 minutes, or maybe he had a lung full of breath, which I imagine your heart starts beating a little faster, you're going to use up.
I would imagine so.
Let's see. Packard says his boatmate, who the Cape Cod Times identifies as Joshua Mayo, says the ejection from the whale, saw the ejection from the whale, but did not see the humpback swallow him. I don't need, if you come out of the mouth of a whale, I'm just going to presume that you went into the mouth of a whale.
Yes.
And it's not swallowed.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Good enough. They saw the ejection when the whale came up and threw me out. Packard says Mayo helped him out of the water, called to the shore on the radio and headed in. He was taken to an area hospital but suffered a few injuries, mainly soft tissue damage.
Aren't whales fairly smart?
Yeah.
I wonder if the whale simply thought he was drowning, was like, hey, I'm going to take you back up to the surface. I got your back, bud.
It's possible. I'm not going to... Yeah,
I mean, that's something that a dolphin would do if a dolphin had the capacity, but dolphins are also smarter than whales, I believe.
Dolphin is a whale. I would... So what I have heard from divers, and mind you, I prefer to be in the water with things smaller than me, not larger.
Sure.
But what I've heard is that whales will nudge you and move you and get between you and a problem and that kind of thing. So it's quite possible a whale just thought it was just skimming for krill. If you ever get a chance to see a baleen whale, a whale that skims for krill, their mouths are gigantic. And it could happen. I mean, if there's enough people in the water, enough whales in the water, sooner or later somebody ends up in the mouth of a whale. And so I tend to think this was accidental on the part of the whale, and that's why he was sort of shaking him out. But it could be. I like the story. It could be. Anyway, the Juke Robbins, director of the humpback whale studies at the Center for Coastal Studies in Provincetown, said it appeared to be a mistake and accident on part of the whale. It's not something I have heard happening before. So many things would have to have happened to end up in the path of a feeding whale. The Center's Humpback Whale Studies program is home to a long-term study of humpbacks off Cape Cod and the greater Gulf of Maine. Robbins directs the research, which is one of the most detailed whale studies in the world. Robbins suspects it was a juvenile humpback whale feeding on sand lance. I don't know what sand lance is.
Well, it certainly can't be common. I mean, they are right about that. This is the first story I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Of a whale eating someone or, having them in their mouths, however you wish to characterize it. It's not something I've heard of before.
Yeah, it says here that this is describes better than what I was saying. The center says humpback whales spend their time seeking and engulfing small schooling fish. They lunge quickly, open their mouths wide, and use, when we're talking about whales, wide is a big wide, use baleen plates in their mouth to filter the water out before the fish are swallowed. If something lies directly in the path of a lunge feeding humpback whale, the whale might not always be able to detect it or avoid it in time, Robbins continued. For example, some entanglements in fishing gear begin this way and can threaten the life of the whale. Interactions between humpback whales and people are rare and thought to be accidental. From what we know of this event, it would have been a rare accident, Robbins noted.
Well, at least that means it's safe to swim in the ocean. You're not likely to get eaten by a whale, so that's good. 202-380-3699. That's the new call-in line. 202-380-3699. When we come back, we're going to talk about TikTok and how it's collecting biometric data on Americans. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
On March 16th of this year, a joint government task force raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested, most were released, but Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, and Ian Freeman both remain in custody. We've been in contact with attorneys that say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from the back of our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, violating our and your First Amendment rights. You can go to thecrypto6.com and donate to fight against these charges, but as importantly, contact media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for the use of cryptocurrency well into the future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699. If you want to join the discussion, that's 202-380-3699. With you tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark.
And I've alluded to it a couple of times, but before we get into it, never mind, it's just the Crypto 6 left to talk about tonight, and I don't feel like getting into that at the moment.
The TikTok story?
I was going to look into live reads, but the only ones left tonight are the Crypto 6. So, and I'm not going to worry with it at the moment.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, I've never used TikTok. I've seen some TikTok content that, my sister has created or someone else has created. But I've never used it. I've never explored it. I've never tried to do anything with it because from what I can tell, it's just another content creation tool when I'm already have access to enough content creation tools. And sure, maybe, I could reach more people on TikTok or whatever, but I just don't see any particular reason to do that instead of putting videos on YouTube or Twitch or wherever. So I've never used it, but it's really popular. And
they're usually shorter videos and, let's say dancing or, something like that. It doesn't have that political rant feel to it, in my opinion.
I don't know. I've seen some videos that are fairly
I've seen some.
Political.
Yeah, sure.
But
I just don't think they get
the platform as a whole is more about, enjoying a 3-minute video or a 30-second video or whatever.
Right.
And not getting into like a 6-minute political rant.
Right.
I would agree. But evidently it's very popular. There was a thing last year where Donald Trump hinted he wanted to ban TikTok because it's owned by a Chinese company or something like that. Evidently, though, TikTok is collecting biometric data on people.
Right. A change to TikTok's U.S. privacy policy on Wednesday introduced a new section that says the social video app may collect biometric identifiers and biometric information from users' content.
Why would you even turn on biometric functionality on your phone in the first place?
Well, maybe you don't have a choice. So if TikTok says, in this case, they're talking about face prints and voice prints. So if you make a TikTok video, you have authorized the app to use your camera. At that point, the app has the right to use your camera because you have authorized it, and
makes sense.
Therefore, it can get your face anytime it wants to, and presumably your voice anytime it wants to, or at the very least when the app is open. In many cases, the new thing is that you authorize it when the app is open, which I don't know if that means open in the background or open being used immediately at this moment in time. But whatever the case may be, this is. I
make a good point. I hadn't considered that. I assumed, you would have to unlock these features in your phone, turn on the thumb printing and all of that. But no, you're giving TikTok your voice and your face just by using the app.
Right. And as far as I'm concerned, if you give something to a Chinese company, you give it to the Chinese government because the Chinese government doesn't have relationships with the companies in its sphere of influence. The United States does with the companies in its sphere of influence. Not to say that Google's exactly going to go to bat for you or anything, but Apple has gone to bat for people, gone to bat for their own security and these sorts of things.
Well, they created a loophole that they didn't really talk about.
What's
and that allowed people to think that Apple went to bat for them. I assume you're referring to the whole FBI wanted Apple to decrypt something, and Apple was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yes.
Well, what they ended up doing was they don't encrypt the backups that your phone sends to the cloud. So those aren't encrypted. Your phone is encrypted, sure, but the backup is not. So the FBI can just access the backup, and it's not encrypted. And this way, Apple can say, oh, well, look, we still refuse to give the FBI or the government your encrypted information, but they did give it to them. They just did it in a roundabout way so they didn't have to tell people, oh, yeah, hey, we turned that stuff over. You're screwed.
Let me ask you this. If a company came out and said, we do security and encryption and these sorts of things, and there's two companies, all things are equal.
Okay.
Between these two companies, except one of them is in the United States and one of them is in China. Do you have an opinion on that?
Are either of them open source?
Sure.
Well, the one that's open source is going to get my business.
Okay. So that's what I've heard when it comes to encryption. At least you need to be able to see the source code, as it were.
I mean, it wouldn't be any use to me because I cannot program anywhere near that level. But knowing that people who can program at that level have inspected it and checked it off,
presumably,
verified it, that is a strong factor for me.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons I like Android, because it is presumably open source. And I know Google has some things locked away and all of that, but you can throw on Lineage.
What's Lineage?
Lineage is an operating system for Android phones. It's a fully
is this called
unlocked
rooting?
Well, sort of.
Okay.
I mean, you have to have a rooted device in order to install a different operating system in general.
Okay.
But I haven't even bothered with that lately because it's a lot of trouble, and I just don't know that it's worth it, you know.
I don't know what's worth it when it comes to phones. To me, I just presume that the device I'm using is cracked in some way, and that somebody may listen. But I also try not to have any information that the government would want.
Right.
Not that that's always worked out for me, mind you.
Well, I know there was an issue with Signal recently, which I don't know if Signal is open source or not, but it's an encrypted chat platform, and
considered the best.
It was making calls. It could be hacked to make calls without the owner of the phone even being aware of it.
Okay.
So that was a major issue.
That's
for
a
all we
major
know.
issue, yeah.
I mean, the FBI could just connect to your phone at any time and listen to via Signal to whatever you're saying. So it's a fair assumption to think that any digital device that you have that has a microphone is listening all the time, and any camera is watching.
I'm amazed
all the
at
time.
the ads that I get from social media on my phone. Like, they have to be listening to what I'm saying. They have to be picking out keywords.
Your phone certainly is, but well, the FBI, not the FBI, Facebook and all of those certainly are, and they make no secret
But you
of
repeat
it.
yourself.
What?
The FBI, Facebook, but you repeat yourself.
Well, yes, but not to the average person, right? The average person doesn't consider them one and the same. But yeah, I've
They
seen
ought
this
to.
where I will have a literal conversation with a friend about something, and a few minutes later, getting advertisements for that in Facebook.
Yes.
And that's creepy.
Now,
I don't
I'm talking
mind
about
it.
just having conversations in real life with real people, and I get ads for things that I shouldn't be getting ads for unless it's listening.
That's alarming.
I think that's what's happening.
I don't know that I've ever experienced that.
Okay.
But I do know that if I say anything on any aspect of any part of my phone, if I say it in text message or via email or whatever, I'm going to end up with a Facebook ad about that very thing. Like these microphones in front of us. I'm constantly receiving advertisements for microphones from this brand.
And
I've never posted anything about these microphones anywhere on Facebook.
The strangest thing is that when you order something on Amazon, Amazon somehow believes you've just suddenly become a connoisseur and a collector of, say, microphones.
Yes.
Oh, no, I just bought a microphone. I don't need to buy more microphones.
They certainly do that. And I don't remember what exactly it was that was so bizarre, but I bought something that, you only have to buy one of these
Ever.
ever.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go. I bought one, and it's just, hey, you might like this similar item that's almost exactly what you just bought and that you can't possibly need. Try it instead.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember what it was, but yeah, it's bizarre how Amazon seems to think. I bought some speakers off of there, and they decided I must be a multi-billionaire because they started promoting surround sound systems to me that were like $14,000, $15,000. Amazon, you've lost your mind. I don't know what algorithm they have in place, but they need to fix it because, yes, I have bought microphones off of Amazon. I don't need any more. There's no point in promoting them to me. 202-380-3699. Who else is listening? Maybe Amazon heard that and they're going to stop suggesting microphones. It's Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699. And Mark and I were just having a discussion and
the disagreement.
Yeah, it's just going to spill over to the air. We're talking about statues here.
Right.
And before we get into the disagreement we were having, let's talk about the Mona Lisa and Jeff Bezos. So let's back up and explain to people how we
I will
got
go
to
on with this TikTok
Frederick
story
Douglass.
if we have time in the future, but we're now going to a story where idiots on the internet have FoxNews.com a petition urging Jeff Bezos to buy and eat the Mona Lisa gains steam. A petition urging billionaire Jeff Bezos to buy Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and eat it has gotten hundreds of signatures. Nobody's eaten the Mona Lisa, and we feel Jeff Bezos needs to take a stand. None of this is capitalized because it's written by an idiot who doesn't care, and make this happen. The joke petition, I'm glad somebody pointed that out, went up a year ago on change.org and gained hundreds of signatures, signers. Thursday reads. What the hell? Gobbled Lisa, one signer wrote, another joked, I feel like this is something society needs. Jeff, we need you to make this sacrifice for society. The Mona Lisa is owned by the French government, is on permanent display at the Louvre Louvre Museum in Paris.
So these are just bored people.
Yeah.
Who are wasting time signing and creating stupid,
silly
online petitions. I can't imagine taking time out of my day to create such a stupid and useless petition that even if it gained 6...
Or sign it.
Yes, or even the 10 seconds to sign it. Even if this gained 6 billion signatures, there's no chance of it ever happening. I mean, obviously it is a joke, but it's a stupid joke, and there's no part of it that I think is funny.
And I think that the part that disturbs me the most is this makes acceptable. This is for the lulz, right? This normalizes the behavior of destruction of art and culture and things good. And if all you can make and be in the world is destruction, as far as I'm concerned, the world can do without you. Look, I get it. Young men tend to, and I presume young women, but I don't know. Young men tend to go through a phase where destruction is easier than creation. This is why we have a military, and this is why it recruits young people.
Sure.
But, I mean...
but destruction just takes away from what is there.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't help anything. It doesn't create anything.
It's not... Right. It's
just
bad.
Destruction.
And as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be weeded out as quickly and as thoroughly as possible.
Well, let's talk about... This is how we got into statues. I think we have to define different types of destruction, because there's somewhat constructive destruction. Like melting down a bronze statue, you're destroying it, sure, but you may use that. You may sell that bronze or use it for something more
Bronze
useful.
isn't that valuable. I mean, you can go into a local gift shop and buy little bronze trinkets for nearly nothing. Bronze is not valuable.
Well, insert whatever metal you want. There is a way.
But bronze is a common metal for statues. So if you were melting down statues, the metal you're most likely to get is bronze, which isn't particularly valuable. It's most valuable in its state as a statue.
I'm not sure it's providing any value in its...
Well, can we talk about a statue rather than just the notion of statues? Because,
because we got into
Rodin's The Thinker is in bronze, as is the Confederate, the Yankee soldier in Keene Central Square. And those mean entirely different things to people.
Right. I would argue that statues of people who have lived, historical figures, is idolatry. And it should be condemned, and these statues should be destroyed.
Idolatry would include worship. Isn't a statue just to sort of remember what the person was about and, continue on their lineage of what they were about?
What is that if it's not worshiping them?
I think it is not worshiping them. I think that it is, in fact, remembering them and promoting their ideals.
Well, one can do that without idolizing them.
One could do that without making a statue of them, but making a statue of them is a great way for people to sort of ask the question. Have you ever gone through a park, wandered up on a statue of a person and said, I've never heard of this person before. I shall read about them. And then you read the little placard there next to the person's name, whomever it is, and you find out more than you knew before.
Was it useful information, or is it just stuff that you know now?
Well, when people ask me that question, it's usually loaded. I've had people say, it's not useful knowing all the state capitals. And it isn't useful necessarily to know it, but it's a fact, and I have all at my I am able to do my job because I can access from my mind, at least sometimes, some facts that are interesting and promote conversation. So I would say, yes, it is useful if there's a statue of a person and it promotes that idea. Like, for instance, there's a...
What if there was instead...
There's a statue of Theodore Roosevelt outside the Natural History Museum in New York. Inside that history museum, by the way, his family financed in large part this museum, is a poem that he wrote called The State. You can go look it up and you read it. It is an anthem to the notion of power and destruction. And
okay, when you said that, I don't know why I assumed it was going to be the opposite for some reason, but I did.
Oh no!
So
I told you in a few segments ago that that fascism was created in the United States by people like Woodrow Wilson and his ilk, and by that I mean FDR.
Woodrow Wilson
Roosevelt
ultimately admitted that he had done that, and that he regretted it, and that Americans needed to do something about it.
Well, I haven't read that, but oh, good.
Well, it was in his farewell address.
Okay. Well,
he at length went on about the military-industrial complex that he had created.
That's Eisenhower you're thinking
Oh,
of.
yeah, it is.
So anyway, this statue certainly promotes Theodore Roosevelt's ideals surrounding the state, and money bought that for him. And
well, let's destroy it because it sounds like it's an evil and immoral thing that is being promoted there. I'm not saying let's do that because that belongs to someone who isn't me. It's not my property to go and destroy. I'm saying that we as a society should come together and say, hey, this is not the kind of thing we want to idolize. Let's get rid of this.
Well, I think that would be. I'd love to live in a world where we don't want to idolize people like Theodore Roosevelt, but I don't. In fact, I live in quite the opposite world, and I would say that that statue is exactly where it should be. It is on the private property of a museum that is largely funded by donations. Now, is it quote-unquote state-owned? Sure. But the people of the state of New York or the city of New York, they're not really the ones paying for the Museum of Natural History. It's the people who choose to go in there. And by the way, it is a phenomenal museum. It's one of the best museums in the United States.
Wouldn't a library be better, though?
Meaning what?
Just a place full of books and information that
we
people
have
can
libraries
access?
everywhere. No,
Yes, we need more libraries, though. Look, if we had more libraries and fewer statues, the world would be a better place.
Okay, you haven't been to the Natural History Museum. That much
No,
is clear.
because I can pick up a book and read any information that is in there. I can pick up a book and read it.
You cannot
without having to go there and idolize.
stand next to a herd of stuffed elephants
What
in
benefit?
a book.
What benefit? Yes, I can. That's the power of the imagination.
No, that's
It's
imagination.
It's as real as standing next to wax elephants or statues of elephants or whatever they are. It's as close to the experience of standing next to real elephants as is imagining myself there while reading a book about it.
So you're saying that imagination is equal to to reality?
No.
Okay.
You're comparing standing next to wax elephants or
Well, they're not wax. They're actually stuffed.
Stuffed elephants.
They were elephants at one point.
As being somehow analogous to or
because there's nothing like it.
Worthy of an experience like standing next to actual elephants.
Well, it's not standing next to real elephants, but you really have to go into one of these places to understand what I'm talking about.
So you have giant stuffed elephants. I don't know what experience standing next to a stuffed elephant can bring me than imagining myself standing next to a stuffed elephant.
I'll tell you this.
can't.
When you look at rare stuffed birds that are now extinct, and you're trying to imagine what they look like when you're reading about it in a book, you just can't come up with what they look like. But looking at them...
Books can have pictures.
Okay. Now they have pictures of hand-drawn, birds. I mean...
Sure, why not?
Somebody's mock-up of a dodo is far more effective in communicating what a dodo looked like. By the way, we don't know really what a dodo looked like. Than reading a book about it or
not
looking
if
at a
the
picture.
book has a picture about it. I mean, I don't understand.
No, sorry. That's the problem. You don't understand.
I would point out that a picture of the Mona Lisa conveys exactly the same information as standing in front of the Mona Lisa.
I think 99%, but the Mona Lisa is a two-dimensional object.
What are your thoughts? 202-380-3699. Who's right here, Mark or Arya? Is imagination almost as good as reality?
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Ready for the one-on-one. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Biden in Switzerland, hours away from his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
A senior administration official outlines 3 of the topics for the sit-down. Ransomware attacks like those launched from inside Russia that recently squeezed American meat and gas supplies. Arms control, as the U.S. and Russia are the world's biggest nuclear powers. And Alexei Navalny, a Putin political rival, in prison in Russia.
Fox's Peter Doocy in Geneva. The president is expected to hold a solo press conference after the meeting. Earlier today, the president met with European Union leaders where they resolved a long-running dispute over subsidies to airplane makers Boeing and Airbus. They also put out a joint statement calling for an evidence-based investigation by the World Health Organization into the origins of COVID-19. Johns Hopkins University says the U.S. has topped 600,000 deaths from the virus as one variant is classified as of concern by health officials.
The Delta variant, first diagnosed in India, is believed by the CDC to be more transmittable person to person than other offshoots of COVID. It also tends to cause more severe cases once contracted. Even with increased transmissibility, Fox News is being told that the current vaccines do give people a reduced risk of getting it. However, one case was reported in Hawaii Monday of a person who recently traveled to Nevada being diagnosed with the Delta variant even after being vaccinated. Hawaii health officials called the case very rare. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The Israeli military says it's conducted airstrikes against Hamas military targets in Gaza. It says the strikes were in response to the launching of incendiary balloons that caused fires in southern Israel. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
The Department of Justice is asking the Supreme Court to reinstate the death penalty for the Boston Marathon bomber.
In a 48-page brief filed yesterday, the Justice Department urged the Supreme Court to reverse a decision by a Boston-based appeals court to vacate Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's death sentence. The appeals court said the judge who oversaw the trial did not adequately screen jurors for any potential biases. Tsarnaev and his brother, who is now deceased, killed 3 and hurt 260 others in the bombing attack near the 2013 Boston Marathon finish line. Tsarnaev was given 20 life sentences in addition to the death penalty. The Supreme Court will likely hear the case in the term starting in the fall, which means a decision could be expected by next summer. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The lawyers for accused murderer Robert Durst have their request for a mistrial denied again.
Durst's defense lawyer Dick DeGaring claims new medical records show his client is in pain from end-stage renal disease and other ailments.
This clearly interferes with our ability to
consult with and to represent Mr. Durst.
Durst also wears a catheter, and his team says he can't dress properly for the trial. Prosecutor John Lewin says other doctors say he's fit for trial.
Every time they say he cannot go through this, we continue to go on.
The judge says he would consider the defense's position once they file the request in writing, but the trial rolled on. Durst is charged with killing his best friend Susan Berman in 2000. Rob Dawson, Fox News.
Leaders in
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
It's the story that's stunning the tech world. Despite his age, 6-year-old data entry prodigy Jeffrey Peters is already entertaining offers from dozens of major temp agencies. Experts say Jeffrey's abilities to sit still and perform mind-numbing tasks in Excel and Word for hours on end rank with a freelance worker 3 times his age. But Jeffrey's mom says that she knew he was special from early on.
I've always thought that Jeffrey was different from the other kids. He started wearing glasses for computer strain when he was just 3.5, and he already has some pretty significant tendinitis.
I've always wanted to work at Maverick Recruiting.
The data entry whiz is at the center of a bidding war between industry titans like Workforce Solutions and Metropolitan Staffing, both offering lavish perks like starting salaries of up to $15,000 and a cramped cubicle shared with only 2 other temps. Jeffrey's parents say that given the generous offers he's already received, he could be well on the way to affording a dingy rundown apartment of his own.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699. That's the new call-in line, 202-380-3699. Yeah, and as I say that number, I don't think I'm ever actually going to memorize it. I mean, it's on a sticker right in front of me, so it's all good. But yeah, it's not one I'm likely to memorize, I don't think.
Well, we'll see what's going on with the phone lines here shortly. We've been having some problems, and that's why we switched up the phone number. We don't know what's going on with our old call-in line. So if you have that saved, well, it's probably not going to go well for you. Try this number. And one more time, Aria, it is
202-380-3699.
Very good.
So we were talking about the Mona Lisa and statues and idolatry, and you disagree with me in that I think that we can idolize the ideas of these people without idolizing the people. Like you keep mentioning Gandhi, who of course had many admirable characteristics. I think we can admire those characteristics without necessarily holding up Gandhi as someone who
have you ever
should
heard
be admired.
How different kids learn in different ways? Some kids are kinetic learners, and some kids are auditory learners, and some kids have to, read something in order to do whatever. The same's true with everybody in the world, and different methods for teaching, like the same method doesn't work for everybody. And
That's
what
a
you're
fair
saying
point.
is that books are good, imagination is good. I certainly don't argue with that. But in my opinion, there's nothing like being in, say, the Natural History Museum for understanding the size and of a silverback gorilla. Now, if you can go to a zoo and see a silverback gorilla, yeah, that'll stand for it. But I mean,
yeah, but don't go to zoos because they're unethical.
I don't know that I think that zoos are unethical, but anyway, well, let's leave the zoo conversation for the next segment. to me, education's important, as it is to you. I'm not saying it's not important to you. And I just think that different people learn different ways, and that we have to have lots of different ways. When it comes to statues, I get that figures, especially historical figures, political figures, I think is what I'm trying to come up with. Political figures are going to be highly divisive. There's going to be some people that like Theodore Roosevelt and some people who don't like Theodore Roosevelt. And that the people of the city of New York don't need to pay to create a statue of Theodore Roosevelt. And if a statue of Theodore Roosevelt is given to the city of New York to put in a certain spot, that the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for the maintenance of that spot. That, in fact, it should be put in, say, a museum that was financed largely by the Roosevelt family, or in large part by the Roosevelt family.
Sure, I don't disagree that, if taxpayers aren't footing the bill, then private people with private statues can do whatever they want. My argument is that they shouldn't want to create a statue of Teddy Roosevelt.
If you try to get everybody to want a thing, you will fail.
I know.
And it's just a recipe for failure. So no,
But here's a guy who idolizes the state, as you pointed out.
Teddy Roosevelt, not the great character that many people think he is. As all you have to do is do a little more reading. Push the puff pieces aside and realize that Teddy Roosevelt told Japan that he could have North Korea. That they could have North Korea. And basically gave them China. And then, of course, things went out of control with Nanking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, many of the problems in the East that the United States got involved with, created by Theodore Roosevelt in the first place. This guy just loved conquering. And it didn't matter whether he was doing it or somebody else, his puppet.
Yeah, that's true of, the American government in general. And going all the way back, this is why all of these historical figures, even if they did something good, like, Thomas Jefferson did plenty of good things, he was still a slave owner.
And
I don't think he should be idolized.
I
can admire
when you talk about idolization. So you you have come to this conclusion. I just want to make sure that everybody else comes to this conclusion: is that humans are fallible.
Yes.
And they exist in the time frame that they exist.
Yes.
Thomas Jefferson was very likely much better to his slaves than the vast majority of slave owners at that time, even in the immediate vicinity of Monticello, right?
I don't disagree with that.
Monticello, you decide how it's pronounced. I don't care. If one looks at it from that standpoint, I think it's sort of, okay, I get it. Like the pre-industrial revolution, labor conditions sucked. At the time of Thomas Jefferson, 85% of Americans were under what we would call the poverty level now. They didn't know precisely where their meals were going to. They were nutritionally unstable, as it were, and these sorts of things. 85% of Americans, middle class was poverty at this time. And that's because of just sort of the economics of the way things are now. Now middle class means 2 cars, television sets, air conditioning, cell phones, and a variety of really wonderful things. We can't imagine a world where middle class is near, potential starvation next month. And so in a world like that, there's going to be labor is going to look different than it does today. And that's not to say that slavery is acceptable. It is not. But it is understandable in that time frame. Now, by that time frame, I mean
I don't think it's
every year from the agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago to today, to a mere 200 years ago, basically.
I don't think it was. I don't think I would characterize it as understandable within that time frame, because there were abolitionists even back then.
Sure.
And
it's theoretically wrong. And
if a market isn't sustainable without forced labor, then that market shouldn't exist.
I'm with you on that topic. However, you would agree, presumably, that the natural state of man since the agricultural revolution, and quite possibly before it, I can't really say, we don't have a lot of documentation from that time frame, but the natural state of man was bondage and servitude.
Well, the natural state of man is poverty.
Poverty too, but there are people who aren't in poverty, and those people use those in poverty in any way they wish.
Yes, but this eliminates the poverty. If they pay them, it eliminates the poverty. Because you are paying them. You are providing them with resources. You are lifting them out of poverty.
Sure. What I would say to that is...
I mean, we've seen this with China, right? We used to always talk about how, all these cheap Chinese goods went. But look at what we did.
You lifted people out of poverty, but the difference is today, China isn't competing against actual slavery. So if you're trying to sell cotton that you've grown in Mississippi from a farm where you paid people to pick cotton versus the right next door, the plantation has forced labor where they own people like livestock, you're going to find that you're priced out of the market relatively quickly. And I'm not saying that that's right, or that's the reality of it.
It is the reality of it, so I would get into a different industry.
Okay, great, and I bet you would have.
Not engage in one where I had to compete with forced
hold
labor.
on. Whoa. I'm not defending
I know you're not.
slavery.
I know you're
I'm
not.
simply saying that, we're going back and forth between slavery in antebellum South and slavery as it has existed for 10,000 years in a variety of different, ways.
But
and everybody who's listening to me and everybody who's talking right here is the descendants of slaves and slave masters. Like we all are. I mean, that's just the reality of it, because slavery is the natural state of man if you look over the last 10,000 years.
It isn't the natural state. Poverty is the natural state, and slavery is just the exploitation of your fellow human being. That there's nothing natural about that.
If it's, the most common state of man over the last 10,000 years?
I will allow that, but that's because...
it's not good.
Let's be honest. You may be correct to say that it's the natural state because man is an aggressive, violent animal. And always has been.
And a lot of them are just servile in order to get along.
And humans have always there's always been humans that sought power over others, and slavery is power over others.
Yep.
So it is a natural manifestation of humanity, but that doesn't make it any less immoral or any more acceptable. And I know you're not arguing that it does.
Certainly wouldn't.
But it's not an institution that can't be abolished.
Agreed.
202-380-3699.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark.
And I've got to pull it up here. I want to say thank you to Izzy, who is tonight's amplifier. Izzy is a gold level amplifier, which means that Izzy is giving $10 per month to the amp program. We don't ask that much, though. All we ask is $5 per month. That gets you in. It comes with a number of cool little features like an amp-only Facebook group and amp-only chat on the Matrix server, which you can find at social.freetalklive.com. There's so many URLs in my head that it's sometimes difficult to keep them straight. But the real reason you should join the program, if you want to, is because you care about Free Talk Live and you want us to be on more radio stations, reaching larger and better. I don't want to say better, but reaching larger audiences.
Sure, more
around
people.
the world.
Because you care about a couple of things. Do you care about freedom of speech? And I mean the ability of people to get on and say what they want on national radio. If you care about that, then Free Talk Live's the show for you, because it's not. The other shows aren't. If you care about the
most
ideas
shows will only let you on if you're agreeing with the host. Like Rush Limbaugh was notorious for this.
Oh,
if you would say, if you were going to argue with him, like from a hardcore leftist, he would let you on for the entertainment value of that.
Sure.
But he would cut you off, put you on hold, dump your call as he wanted to, just to make you look ridiculous.
Well, and this is true for all hosts. If you disagree with them and you make them look good in the process, then you'll stay on. Now, there's a few hosts that were like Neil Bortz. That guy just liked to argue, and so he would bring you on, and you could argue with him, and you go to the front of the line. But I don't know what Neil's doing these days. I hope all the best for him. He was kind of one of the precursors to Free Talk Live, in so much as, we do take calls from people that we disagree with. So.
We do, and it's not because we want to make ourselves look good or we want to argue with people. It's because maybe they're right. We may not be correct.
I also think just radio where people agree with each other is boring.
That's a valid point. So if you value all of that, you might consider joining the AMP program. You can find it at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. All money donated there is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live.
So, Aria, I think that we're on a topic here during the break for several breaks, parts of the breaks here, that I think is worth talking about. I don't know if I hope I'm not revealing too much to say you're getting a pet.
No.
Okay. And that pet is?
A golden retriever.
You're getting a golden retriever puppy here in the very near future.
Yes.
And
well, that's the plan. I can't have contact with Ian, and I need to, talk to him about it, but I don't expect there to be an issue.
Why would that be an issue?
Right.
Oh, as far as okay, yeah. Well, I'm on the board of the Shire Free Church, and as long as you're taking care of the place you rent, then that's fine. One of the things that we were talking about is do animals have emotions? And I think
I didn't know which particular thing during the break that you've been talking about, because we've had a different conversation during the breaks. I mean, we have to find out a way to record these and upload them as, outtake clips or something like that, because it's good stuff.
I would only give that to amplifiers. Go to amp.freetalklive.com.
Well, we've got to work out a mechanism for doing that.
Well, we have microphones right here.
We do, but if we talk into them, then it's going out onto the stream and, in some cases, terrestrial radio.
We could figure something out.
Yeah.
And to me, the argument I would have for emotions, and I know that some people out there think you shouldn't personify animals, and this is anthropomorphization, and all that stuff.
Well, we are animals.
We are animals.
It's nothing but ego to say, oh, you can't anthropomorphize animals, because they're a lot more similar to us than we care to think.
Right. If you make the argument that man is completely different from animals, you're not doing it from a scientific standpoint.
Correct. There's no reason to believe that whatsoever. Except
share
ego.
Yeah, we share a great deal of DNA with, well, all animals and plants and these sorts of things. I mean, DNA is shared across the board, but specifically, the closer we get to apes, the more DNA we share. So it suggests that science is correct in classifying humans as apes. But when I think about the 50,000-year relationship that humans have had with dogs, I mean, there's times that it'll bring me to tears, that I really do believe that dogs came to us through the love, likely the love of little girls who wanted to baby a puppy, and treat it, a certain way and that kind of thing. And, young animals are much more interested in human beings than their older counterparts.
Sure.
And so a little girl gets a puppy and raises it, and that puppy, hates her less than hates all the other humans. And then slowly over time, domesticization, if that's a proper term, kicks in, and then we have these animals that cohabitate with us, look for our scraps, protect us, care for our livestock, do all these things, babysit kids, and do a whole bunch of things that these animals do, to the point that prehistoric man is being buried with their dogs. They love them so much. They're so much a part of their lives. And today, with the COVID puppy phenomenon and this kind of thing, I mean, so many more
COVID puppy phenomenon?
Yeah, people adopting animals because they were locked in their houses for so long.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess I can sort of see how it would happen, though. People become lonely.
Yeah, sure.
So they get a pet.
It's
not the reason I'm interested in a golden retriever.
No, I don't think that's the best reason, but there are worse reasons.
Sure.
I
mean, if you're lonely, then you're going to spend time with the pet, which is a positive thing.
That's a positive thing for both you and the pet. It's good for your mental health, like really, really good for your mental health, to have something to care for and take care of and go on for walks and get some sunlight and do a variety of things that one might do when one has an animal. But I'm also a creationist. I believe that God created, life, even though I tend to believe in science most of the time too. And I think that the Creator loves economy. And I don't think that the Creator would just create emotions for humans. Obviously, nature wouldn't, because emotions are useful in getting us to do all the things that we need to do as the most successful ape the planet has ever seen.
So question about your theology. Do you believe that the Creator, after creating the universe, then actively participated in guiding and shaping it as it progressed, or he just sort of did the deist thing, which is lay out how the rules, and then the chances took over?
I think that there's probably some fiddling with the chances. I mean, the chances of life on this planet are phenomenally low.
Yeah, but the chances of life evolving anywhere are still phenomenally low, but there's
lots of anywheres.
Yes,
There's lots
there
of
are so
somewheres.
many planets that it was almost certainly going to happen at
Sure.
some point.
And the presumption I would have is there's probably life on other planets. But I still think that likely, there was a little fiddling here and there. No, I don't think that it was just an ant farm. When I had an ant farm, I'd knock it around a little bit, wouldn't you? I mean, sure.
What are your thoughts on all of this? 202-380-3699. More coming up. Do animals have emotions? Well, if you're watching the video feed at tlive.freetalklive.com and you see the cat, you're probably inclined to think yes.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
Anyone can publish on the internet, but not everyone is publishing material suited for online reading. According to the Yahoo Style Guide, it cautions that internet content has a few seconds, 3 or less, to encourage people to read more, to take action, or navigate to another one of your pages. So make it easy for readers to pick and choose. Isn't that the way you poke around online? Use short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and short pages. Front load what you write, putting the most important information at the beginning of headlines and paragraphs and sentences. Same goes for your keywords, what someone would likely type into the search box on Yahoo or Google. For more tips on communicating better online or in a job interview or everyday life, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Free Talk Live. Hundreds of videos of people posting, the snow in Georgia isn't real because if you take it and you wad it into a snowball and you hold a lighter to it, it doesn't burn. And it leaves these charred black marks. And it's like, yeah, that's the way snow behaves everywhere because it's ice. And there's way more molecules in, a block ice than there is in a match.
Because size does matter.
Yeah, extremely. When it comes to temperature, absolutely.
Can't you cut the Southerners a break? I mean, they've never seen
No!
snow.
If you think that there's a conspiracy out there to spray plastic snow across the
Oh,
entire,
is that what they're saying?
the
Is that what
entire
they're
state
saying?
of Georgia, and you think that the snow isn't real, you're a moron!
Wait, is that what they actually say in the video?
Yes! My friends and fellow patriots, it's a conspiracy! They're spraying chemtrail snow all over the state of Georgia!
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. 202-380-3699 is the caller line.
We haven't had a lot of calls tonight, now that I think about it. I mean, Tom from New Hampshire called in. Dave from Michigan.
We haven't, and Bonnie is she's spelling out things to make the number easier to remember. Apparently 3699 spells docs with 2 X's. So that's interesting. 202-380-DOCS.
Docs.
It's the number for Free Talk Live now. But speaking of calls, we actually do have a caller on the line.
Also Fox with 2 X's.
Yes, that's also true. I don't want to use that, though, because I don't generally like Fox. Although, as we talked about earlier,
the news channel. This is not spelled with 2 X's.
No.
All right. I didn't even make the correlation.
Oh, see, that's what I think of when I think of Fox.
All I was doing was thinking of the letters that are on the 3.
Well, it's the 9 that's tricky, right? Because you've got X, Y, and Z there, and
so it's Foxy.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's better, I guess. But speaking of the phones, we actually do have someone on the line. We have Dylan calling from New Hampshire. Dylan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, you guys were talking about Jefferson, but before I get to that, you guys are saying how people are humans, are animals, and I totally agree. And I think it's crazy that people don't consider that human habitat is important, especially like the culture of how certain humans are living these days. And, native cultures, tribal lands are being destroyed still by colonization. And it's like, wow, where's everybody who's concerned about the environment? What about the environment for humans?
What do you think when tribal people are not taking care of their land very well? I mean, oftentimes, well, for instance, the people who populated New Zealand wiped out the moa, right? So, I mean, there's some glaring instances historically where people who, native and indigenous people didn't do a very good job of caring for the environment,
I have heard this, but I'm not really familiar, and I'm curious if this has to do with colonial influence.
Well, I would say colonial influence is this sort of bugbear that's tossed out there. I mean, is this still going on? Are we colonizing things these days? Because it seems like colonialism died a death about 100 years ago, and to beat this horse, it may be dead.
Well, I guess what comes to mind is the documentary that I watched on the Sami people of northern Europe. They're losing their lands still, their reindeer habitat. And, it's because of, I would say, colonization or just the way we live life nowadays, buying up lands and making them industrial. And so it's cutting right through their reindeer habitat that they would.
So who's selling the land?
Good question, right? So how did it become for sale?
Yeah, right. This is one of the things is sometimes in the United States, at least. I mean, I can only compare this to native situations in the United States. Is that Indian tribes, which this is just a government making a deal with a government, will say, hey, we're going to give you some land. We're going to give the United States some land, or the state government some land in exchange for this, that, or the other, or they're trying to get it back. I have a great deal of sympathy for native peoples and their plights. At the same time, I certainly don't think that they are perfect, right? Like in many cases, these native peoples in the United States own slaves and these sorts of things. So they're really no better. It's just one government conquering and defeating another, and history's full of that.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
But I guess I like to look at them as kind of the first people that were making use of a particular piece of land and rather decentralized as well. So it's like, how did we come to own that?
Yeah, it's one of the things is that in the United States, I don't know what I haven't watched this documentary on the Sami people, and I'm interested in it because I've read a little bit about them, and oh wow, it's cool to me. So thanks for bringing it up. But oftentimes Native peoples didn't even understand property ownership the way that, say, it was laid out by English common law, and those understandings of property in English common law often sort of defeated them because, well, people who had one understanding of property rights would come to people who had another understanding and sort of make a deal, and the Native people often wouldn't know what they were doing and didn't understand, and these sorts of things.
Yeah, sounds like not proper meeting of the minds.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for the call tonight, Dylan. It's certainly exploitative to go into a new land and see these people. You have an entirely different. Of course, you don't know. I don't imagine the English knew that the Native Americans had a drastically different understanding of private property.
Nope.
But it certainly worked out to their advantage.
Well, it certainly did. Well, let's not forget the reality of just viruses and pathogens that it was going to go one way or the other, and
right.
It happened to go poorly for the peoples of the Americas.
But it could have gone the exact opposite direction, where
have.
Europeans arrived here and were just wiped out by diseases that Native Americans had immunity to.
And those diseases made it back across the ocean with the Europeans fleeing it, and it wipes out 3 continents, with those pathogens. It could have happened. Is it bad? Well, yes, it's bad that 90% of some of the estimations of Native Americans, and I'm talking about from, up to Inuit peoples all the way down to Patagonia, were wiped out by these diseases.
As high as 90%, really?
90%, yeah, it's crazy.
And it's important. That wasn't intentional.
No, and that's the thing is that, while we pull out the whip and begin to self-flagellate here, let's not forget that this is just what happened, and it could have just as easily gone the other direction. There could have been one disease that the Native American people had that had never been seen before in Europe and just wiped them out. But it didn't go that way. It went the other direction. Smallpox was terrible for them. And, there were some instances.
It's horrifying and it's terrible, but the English or the Europeans didn't do this on purpose.
There was,
and they didn't
at the
know
very
to
least,
expect
one
it.
instance where they did. But it's not like that wiped out the continent,
Right.
99% of that 90% was wiped out sort of by accident. And the colonists just believed these were weak people. The reason they didn't want to pay money for them as slaves, which they were doing to each other all the time, was because they were more than likely going to die, and they didn't see it as a valuable thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, they saw them as weak because they didn't understand the concept of virology and the fact that they had immunity or resistance to this disease, and the Native Americans simply didn't.
Yeah, it's that's the way it was. So
it's tragic and it sucks that it happened, but it is important to remember, because when I think about American history, I think I know this land used to be full of Native Americans. My assumption is, there were a lot of wars, weren't there?
There were plenty of them,
but that wasn't what did it.
What?
That wasn't what wiped out 90% of the Native American
not even
population.
Close. No.
It was smallpox, which was an accident.
And what also needs to be understood is that, like any people, everybody remembers the bad thing and not the good things. So, if you're living peacefully with the natives along the other side of the river for a decade, and then one of their wild young guys comes over and does something bad, then it's like, those darn natives, let's go get them. And vice versa, very similar. And it's a sad history, but one that we need to come to grips with. Interestingly, look up what's happened with Native American land ownership in Oklahoma recently out of the Supreme Court, and you'll see some light at the end of this tunnel. Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, The best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, 202-380-3699 if you want to join the discussion. And we've been talking about pets a little bit here and there. And, you know, it just occurred to me that I've only once had a dog in my entire life.
Okay.
A dog that was just my dog, right? I mean, my ex-wife and I, we had some dogs together, but they were bonded more to her than they were to me.
Okay.
The only dog I ever had was a pit bull named Wilbur because he looked like a little pig who was stolen from me, and I don't know what became of him.
No, that's sad.
It was sad.
Well, we were talking about dogs, and I believe that dogs can love. I believe that animals can love. I don't think that this is... Yeah.
Well, it's a hormonal reaction to a circumstance, right? That's what love is in humans, and that's what it is in animals as well. Animals have those... Non-human animals have those same hormones. So I don't see how it could be otherwise.
And I found a little article on the internet. Perhaps they can wax a little more prosaic than I can. And it's from thesprucepets.com. Everyone knows even those hostile cat owners, that dogs are man's and woman's best friend. Now, I don't see any reason to throw down the gauntlet of cat owners. I like cats, too. Your cats are great. My cat, by the way, is awful. But
Cats perform different roles for humans than dogs
Cats
do.
domesticated themselves. They're little freeloaders. Whereas
Well,
dogs...
they're not freeloaders. They killed the rats. They killed the rodents that
I'm
were
not sure they
bothering
killed
us.
rats. I mean, if you've seen a rat versus a cat, you'd have to be a good-sized cat. Probably some good-sized cats, male cats did, but the female ones, the mice that were getting into the grain feed and all that stuff.
Yeah. And the bugs, the spiders, the insects, the wasps. Cats are great at killing those.
They make fiercely loyal, extremely intelligent, and adorable companions, and most puppy parents consider their pooch a member of the family. But do our dogs love us back? The short answer, yes. Dogs express their emotions in a variety of ways, ranging from super subtle to totally obvious. So sometimes it can be tough to tell what's a positive expression or a negative expression. The bottom line, our dogs love us unconditionally. And I love that unconditional thing.
That sounds like dogs. I mean, and it's backfired on many dogs that I knew of back when I lived in the South. People who would mistreat their animals, but the dog continued to love them unconditionally.
I don't think they can do otherwise.
Yeah.
I think of a bum as not mistreatment. I mean, I just think that that's awful. But I think of, say, a homeless person with a dog, and I think, that dog could find somebody else to take care of them, and
Sure.
in a much higher style. But they are loyal to that person.
Yeah.
And they love that person. And to me, I just think that that's, it's an amazing thing.
That is an amazing thing.
They just sometimes express it in weirder ways. These 10 signs of puppy love can help you determine if your pupper and you are truly bonded. And I don't have the time to, in this segment to read every one of them, but I am going to read them, and you can ask me questions as we go through.
Sure.
Holding eye contact. Now, my Doberman Heimdall just loves to hold eye contact with me. He wants me to hold his head in my hands, and he wants to look at me while I sort of rub his jaw.
Heimdall is the stupid one?
You
called him stupid,
he's
not me.
He's no genius, but he is a lovable animal, and he
There's
does what
nothing
he's
wrong with a stupid dog.
He does what he's supposed to do, which is A, he's great with the family, and B, if you come in the house, he is terrifying looking.
Okay.
So
awesome.
He's not so good with the idea of people just wandering in either. He doesn't like that too much.
So eye contact with the dog, that's weird. I don't think I've ever...
You don't want eye contact with a dog you don't know. That's generally considered a threat to the dog. But
Okay.
once you do know the dog, oh yeah, that's great. Leaning against you, and you've had this happen. I mean, the
Sure.
animals leaning against you, and it's just one of
my
the things to
cats
do.
love laying on my feet. That's essentially the same thing.
Yep. It's saying you're part of the group. They're just, getting the body warmth from you and feeling it. Sleeping in your bedroom. And I haven't found a dog that doesn't want to sleep in the bedroom.
Right, because that's where you sleep, and they want to do what you do.
And maybe even get on the bed.
Yeah.
Now, in our case, we've got some big dogs, and they've got dog beds. By the way, from... what is it, the MyPillow company? These are, in my opinion, the best dog beds. MyPillow.com. You can still use coupon code FTL to order there. It keeps them... they're not laying... it doesn't get squished down. It's really great filling.
Okay.
Anyway, say what you want about the people that run MyPillow. They make really, really, really great pillows. Number 4, it's happy when you get home. And
I've never seen a dog who wasn't happy to see people.
I know.
Just in general.
Just hey, thanks for visiting. Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice feeling when you're greeted at home and they're excited to see you, and I've been waiting all day to see you.
See, I do get that from my cats. Every night when I get home from work, I come in and they're sitting there waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah,
just like a dog would.
I'm not sure my cat would do anything if I dropped dead. She just doesn't care. My former cat, Senior Grouchy Pants, probably would have laid down next to me until I got cold, and then what? Who knows? Maybe chewed on me or something. Number 5, it carries your shoes and stinky socks around. Have you seen this?
I've
maybe
heard of it.
Chewing the shoes and socks and things like that.
Why do they do this?
It's the smell. It's
Okay.
concentrated glandular smell. Pooches who are attached to their owners also love their owner's scents and may raid your shoe pile or laundry basket for stinky socks, T-shirts, and even underwear. Stealing shoes and dirty clothes, oh, don't forget tissues, by the way, I like those too, aren't always the best thing, especially if your dog likes to chew, but you can prevent inappropriate chewing by giving your dog plenty of engaging toys or marrow-filled bones. They love you, and their noses, like, try to imagine having a nose that is 50 times as good as, your sense of smell. The way they look at the world, the way they approach the world is far more scent-oriented than we can ever imagine. So scents are important to them. They want to stop off and some dog peed here, I'd like to take a good long sniff of this. And it's, gross from our standpoint, so we would never do such a thing. But from their standpoint, there's a lot of biological information in here, and I need to have it. And so, here's my chief that I love, and he's my leader, and yeah, this is his stinky sock, and I'm going to keep it right here with me. So your dog,
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. It likes to check up on you. More independent dogs may not always be right at your side and curled up around your feet, but that doesn't mean they don't love you. Your dog checks in on you from another room during a walk or in a new environment. It's just making sure you're nearby. And I think you're a touchstone for the animal.
Makes sense. I mean, you're the center of
You're the center of their universe.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the center of my universe, but I'm also the center of my dog's universe. Like, the dog isn't this self-involved,
Right.
Whereas, yeah, I absolutely am. Seeking physical...
See, I don't have that with my cats. So a lot of these I do have, but I know I'm not the center of my cat's universe,
Right.
either one of them.
Right.
They love me, sure, but I occupy the universe with them.
Right.
I'm not at its center.
Right. What's the Churchill quote is something like, the dogs treat us like kings. Cats believe there are kings, but pigs treat us as equals. I can't remember what exactly it is. But it's a fun one.
I know what you're alluding to, and I don't remember it either.
So I think that this being touch thing is an evolutionary thing. We want to touch, we want to feel, the fur, the different experience, the skin underneath our hands. We like this. We're a grooming ape, and the dog realized, if I can fulfill this niche of being touched, things are a lot better for me, and they are. If you're, the dog that wants to get touched gets a lot more treats than the dog that doesn't.
Yeah, very true.
Number 8. Pees when it sees you. Have you ever seen like a dog that gets so excited it just leaks a little? Yeah, that's funny.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's not a sign its potty training is regressing. Dogs, especially puppies, maybe a little bit when they get excited. Referred to as submissive urination. This little accident is actually a compliment. It means your dog knows that you're in charge. And I find it amusing, but I've been around dogs my entire life. My mom at one point was a board member, but a voting member of the American Kennel Club. Like, she went in and met in New Jersey every year, and they'd vote on the breeds that get to be brought in and all that stuff. They're far more inclusive these days than they were back when I was a kid. But so I'm used to a puppy getting so excited that when it sees you that there's a little squirt or whatever. But anyway, it brings you its favorite toy. And this is true, by the way, of toddlers. They approach the world in the way they do, and there's this thing that I love so much. I want you to experience the joy that I get out of this thing, too. And then maybe you can toss it for me, too. That'd be great. And last thing, it smiles at you. But dogs have actually learned how to smile, is what they're saying here at thesprucepets.com.
Fascinating. Well, we'll be back same time tomorrow. Find us online in the meantime at social.freetalklive.com. That's where we chat, social.freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked